Once upon a time, in a quiet suburban neighborhood, there was a group of friends who had been inseparable for years. Mike, Alex, Jason, and Liam were typical husbands, dedicated to their families, bonded over weekend sports games, and always there for each other. They laughed, complained about work, and swapped stories about fatherhood. But beneath their sturdy, well-worn exteriors, they each harbored a bit of curiosity, an itch they hadn't quite scratched. They'd spent years sticking to their roles, comfortably sliding into what was expected of them. That is, until one fateful evening. It all began when their wives decided to arrange a special evening at a theater downtown. The production was part of a new wave of interactive performances called Metamorph, an avant-garde show celebrating transformation in all its forms, emotional, psychological, and even physical. It was known for its powerful scenes, but also for its flamboyant costumes, intricate makeup, and captivating exploration of identity. The husbands weren't initially thrilled about going. "Isn't it a bit artistic?" Mike had asked with a raised eyebrow. But their wives insisted. "Trust me," said Liam's wife, Sarah, with a grin. "This will be unlike anything you've ever seen." Reluctantly, the men agreed, figuring it might at least give them something to laugh about later. So, on a Friday night, they all dressed up a bit more than usual, climbed into their cars, and headed downtown. The theater was breathtaking, a century-old building with gold leaf details, velvet curtains, and chandeliers that sparkled above them as they took their seats. The lights dimmed, and the show began. The first act was mesmerizing. Performers paraded across the stage in costumes that blurred the lines of gender and style. Men in gowns and corsets, women in tailored suits. Each character seemed to ooze an irresistible energy, captivating the audience. Every movement was fluid, confident, and strangely powerful. By the time the curtain closed on Act 1, the husbands were silent, transfixed. Then came the second act, a deeper dive into self-discovery. One scene featured a man transforming, bit by bit, into a more feminine version of himself, symbolized by changes in his attire, gestures, and expressions. The performers seemed to revel in the transformation, finally embracing this hidden side with an ease and joy that was contagious. The audience sat in awe, and when the house lights came back on, there was a stunned silence before the entire room erupted in applause. On the drive home, the men couldn't stop talking about the show. "That was something," Mike said, a little lost for words. "Yeah, I didn't expect to be so into it," Alex admitted. "I don't know if I understood all of it, but it made me think," Jason added. Sarah, who was listening in, noticed a new spark in their conversations. "So, what was your favorite part?" she asked them. They hesitated. For some reason, none of them wanted to admit just how fascinated they'd been by the transformation scenes. But the experience left a mark. In the weeks that followed, the husbands couldn't shake the images from the show. They found themselves pondering what it might be like to explore that other side. A few times, when they were home alone, they looked in the mirror and wondered, what would it feel like to step into a different pair of shoes, to put on something softer, brighter, something that changed the way they moved, the way they felt. One evening, after a few too many beers, Mike broached the subject with Alex. "Have you ever, after that show, just wondered what it might be like? To what?" Alex raised an eyebrow, smirking. "You know what I mean," Mike insisted, a little embarrassed. "To try the other side." Alex paused, then grinned. "Honestly, I have thought about it. Just a little." "Me too," Mike admitted, feeling relieved that he wasn't alone. It didn't take long for the others to catch on. Soon, the idea was growing into a daring little plan. They would each spend one day exploring their feminine side. Nothing extreme, just for fun, to satisfy their curiosity and then laugh about it afterward. The wives thought it was a wonderful idea and offered to help. The plan was set. Next Saturday, the wives would transform their husbands. Sarah, who was a makeup enthusiast, got to work planning their looks, while the other wives sourced dresses, wigs, and accessories. The men didn't know quite what to expect, but as the day approached, excitement bubbled under their nerves. The morning of the transformation, the men gathered at Mike's house, where a mini salon had been set up in the living room. The wives had prepared 4 stations, each stocked with brushes, palettes, and makeup galore. Dresses and accessories were hung up, waiting. As soon as they saw the setup, the husbands burst out laughing. "Are you serious?" Jason asked, eyeing a feathered boa draped over the back of one chair. "Yes, serious," laughed Sarah. "You wanted the full experience, right?" One by one, they were seated. The wives worked with gentle precision, coaching their husbands through each step. As foundation, powder, and blush were applied, they watched each other's transformations with wide eyes, struggling to recognize their familiar faces beneath new, softer contours. Mike was the first to get a look at his new self in the mirror. "Whoa," he murmured, unable to look away. "What do you think?" his wife, Katie, asked, grinning. I actually kind of love it," he admitted, feeling a warmth spread through him as he gazed at his reflection. He saw softness in his own face, a warmth he hadn't expected. By the time all 4 of them were transformed, they were practically unrecognizable. Each husband had a distinct look. Alex was in a slinky red dress with dramatic eyeliner. Jason had gone for a vintage-inspired look with a floral dress and pearls. Liam had chosen a bolder, modern look, complete with a bobbed wig and a bright lipstick. Mike, meanwhile, looked radiant in a simple but elegant black dress with a pair of heels that gave him a surprising boost in confidence. They spent the afternoon talking, laughing, and moving differently, each reveling in a sense of freedom they hadn't anticipated. Liam, who was usually the quietest, found himself chatting animatedly, his gestures more expressive than usual. Jason, known for his strict posture, found himself relaxing, savoring a sense of ease he hadn't felt in years. At one point, Alex's wife, Claire, put on some music, and the husbands were quick to join in, dancing and laughing as they moved in ways they never had before. They twirled, struck poses, and complimented each other's looks, surprising themselves with how natural it felt. As the day wound down, they sat together, a little exhausted but feeling oddly content. "This was incredible," Mike said softly, looking around at his friends. "I didn't know I'd feel so good." "I know, right?" Jason added. "I feel lighter somehow, like I've just met a new side of myself." "It's weird," Liam admitted, "but I think I get it now. Why they choose this." They didn't say much more, but they didn't need to. Each of them felt a quiet, understanding blossom, something they didn't quite have words for yet. They knew they'd go back to their regular lives, that this day was an experiment, but they couldn't deny the effect it had on them. As they cleaned up and slipped back into their usual clothes, the magic of the day lingered. They felt transformed, not just by the makeup and clothes, but by a newfound sense of openness and understanding. They had seen each other in a new light, shared something deeply personal, and discovered something about themselves they hadn't expected. In the days that followed, they kept their experience mostly to themselves, though occasionally they'd drop a knowing smile or chuckle when something reminded them of that day. And while life continued as it always had, they knew they'd carry the memory of that afternoon with them, a quiet reminder that sometimes all it takes is a little change in perspective to see yourself and each other anew. As the husbands returned to their regular routines, the memory of that day kept drifting into their minds. It wasn't just about the clothes or makeup. It was the sense of liberation, a break from the everyday roles they played. Each man had uncovered something subtle but deeply significant. A few weeks later, as they were hanging out on a Friday night, Jason spoke up almost cautiously. "You guys ever think about doing that again?" Alex laughed but nodded. "I was thinking about it just yesterday. It was like we were different people, you know? I didn't realize how much I was holding back." Liam agreed. "I actually felt more confident that day. It was like putting on a costume but also kind of dropping one. I don't know." Mike looked around at them, a smile growing. "Why don't we do it again then? But maybe not just for fun. Maybe to get out and see the world from that perspective." The suggestion hung in the air. They'd been open about a lot of things together, but this felt like a different level of vulnerability. And yet, they couldn't deny that it was tempting. "I'd be in," Jason said, grinning. "But where would we go?" As they tossed ideas back and forth, they settled on something casual but public, a small cafe with an open mic night that their wives frequented. It was a safe space and popular with all kinds of people, including a good number of regulars who might just see them for who they were that night, whoever that turned out to be. The next weekend, they gathered at Mike's house again, joined by their wives, who were eager to assist. There was a shared understanding that this wasn't just dress up anymore. It was a chance to explore and maybe even to share that side of themselves with the world. Each husband chose a different look this time. Jason went for a soft, romantic vibe with a pastel-colored dress and loose curls that gave him an ethereal look. Alex opted for a more sophisticated, glamorous style with a fitted dress, smoky eyes, and dark lipstick. Liam, having discovered a bold side he hadn't expected, went for something colorful, pairing a vibrant dress with chunky jewelry and playful makeup. Mike, meanwhile, decided on a chic, bohemian look with a flowy skirt, patterned blouse, and hoop earrings that framed his face. As they looked at each other, transformed yet again, they could hardly believe the ease with which they settled into their new personas. "I can't believe this is us," Mike whispered, his voice a mix of excitement and nerves. "Feels like I'm about to step into a new world," Jason said, looking at himself in the mirror, seeing both the familiar and the unfamiliar staring back. Their wives beamed with pride, helping them adjust their outfits, offering a few final makeup touches, and giving words of encouragement. With a mix of jitters and anticipation, they piled into 2 cars and made their way to the cafe. The moment they stepped through the door, they felt a wave of self-consciousness wash over them. Heads turned, and they felt a prickling awareness of the glances being cast their way. But instead of feeling scrutinized, they sensed a quiet admiration, a kind of curiosity in the eyes that met theirs. They found a table in a cozy corner and settled in, feeling both out of place and perfectly at home. The dim lighting, the soft murmur of conversation, and the gentle strumming of a guitar from the stage filled the air, and soon enough, they began to relax. After a few minutes, Jason noticed someone waving from across the room, a woman he'd seen around the cafe before. She got up, crossed over, and greeted them with a bright smile. "I don't think we've met, but I love your look," she said, genuinely impressed. "You all have such great style. Are you here for open mic?" The husbands exchanged glances, a little flustered but flattered. "Oh, we're just trying something new tonight," Jason said, smiling back. "Well, you look fantastic. It's great to see new faces here," she said, before introducing herself as Emma and joining them for a bit of conversation. Emma turned out to be friendly and easygoing, making them feel more comfortable in their own skin. As the evening wore on, they found themselves absorbed in the atmosphere. Jason noticed that he was sitting with his legs crossed, something he'd never usually do. Liam caught himself laughing in a slightly higher pitch, his gestures looser and more expressive. Alex, known for his typically reserved demeanor, was engaged in animated conversation with Emma about music, his voice a little softer, his body language more open. They each felt free, in small ways, to try on behaviors and manners they hadn't explored before. For once, they weren't concerned about whether they looked manly enough, weren't afraid to laugh, to smile, to let the walls down a little. Halfway through the evening, Emma asked if any of them were planning to get up and sing or recite something for the open mic. They all shook their heads, laughing nervously at the thought. But as the night went on, and the applause and warm energy filled the room after each performer, Alex felt a strange surge of confidence. Without warning, he stood up. "I'm going to give it a shot," he said, surprising himself. "What?" the others exclaimed, but he was already making his way to the stage. Once on stage, Alex looked out at the crowd, feeling every eye on him. His heart pounded, and for a moment he questioned what he was doing. But then he remembered how alive he'd felt that day, how liberating it had been to just step into this new role. He took a deep breath, then spoke softly into the microphone. This is my first time doing something like this, so bear with me. But I wanted to share a poem." The room fell silent, and he began to read a piece he'd written years ago, something he'd always kept private. His voice wavered at first, But as he continued, he found strength in his words, a strange confidence he hadn't expected. By the time he finished, the room erupted in applause, and he looked down at his friends, who were clapping and cheering louder than anyone. He returned to the table, his face flushed, but his smile was wide and genuine. "That was amazing," Jason said, still clapping. "I don't know what came over me," Alex admitted, but he couldn't hide the pride in his voice. As the evening wound down, they stayed a little longer, each of them glowing from the experience. They'd come here as a small experiment, but they were leaving with a sense of accomplishment and a bond that felt stronger than ever. In the days that followed, their lives returned to their usual rhythms, but something fundamental had shifted. Each of them felt a little more at ease in their own skin, a little more open to new ways of expressing themselves. They'd glimpsed a different side of themselves, a side they hadn't realized they needed to explore. They didn't abandon their everyday roles or responsibilities, but they began to find ways to incorporate what they'd learned. Jason took up writing poetry again, something he'd abandoned years ago. Liam started wearing brighter colors, letting his wardrobe reflect the boldness he'd discovered within himself. Alex found himself more expressive, more willing to share his thoughts with others, and Mike even took up dance lessons with his wife, surprising everyone with his newfound enthusiasm. The four of them continued to hang out, and every now and then, they'd reminisce about that night at the cafe, laughing about their nerves, the wigs, and the way they'd surprised themselves. One evening, a few months later, they gathered once more, this time for a celebration, Alex's birthday. After dinner, Liam looked around at his friends, grinning. "So, are we going to do this again or what?" The others burst into laughter, and with a collective nod, they knew the answer. They didn't need a reason anymore. They discovered something too valuable to let go, a ritual that had become a part of who they were, a part that let them embrace all the shades of themselves they hadn't known before. As they raised their glasses, Mike spoke up, capturing the sentiment that hung in the air. "To new perspectives," he said, lifting his drink. "And to never forgetting how to change," Alex added, smiling warmly. They clinked glasses, and the four friends sat back, grateful for the journey they'd shared and the ways they had learned to see themselves anew. Thank you so much for watching till now. It means the world to have you here. This community is all about empowering each other and celebrating the incredible journeys of everyone on their path to living authentically. If you're ever feeling lost or alone, remember you have a whole family here for you. Hit that subscribe button. Smash that like button. And let's keep inspiring each other, sending you all the love and strength in the world. Until next time, live your life by your rules.